Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Another episode of my plant spotlight series today, and today we're going to focus on this beautiful Philodendron sodiroi. If you're new to these plant spotlights, basically what I do is first I'll show you the journey that the plant and I have been through together over the last year or so, and then I'll talk to you about anything that I learned about this plant in that period, and give you any tips and tricks that I can confidently pass on to you. Right, so I don't have a photo of when I very first got the plant, but I got it as just a stem cutting. It was a reasonably mature stem cutting. It might have been about the size of this leaf over here, similar to that. So that was the original leaf was around about that size over here. I got it as a stem cutting with a new growth point, and I just propagated it in water until the root system was sufficient for me to start potting it up. So I potted it up in June 2021, and in that photo over here you can see that larger leaf that I kind of tied to the moss pole in itself, that's the leaf that it came with. And then that teeny tiny leaf at the bottom that just unfurled, that was the first leaf in my care. It's still in its original pot that I initially gave it. It's just a 14 centimeter pot, so of course, as always, I'm keeping my pot size quite small, because I've got limited space available. So really most of the root system is living within the moss pole in itself. That's how I get away with having these small pots. Right, and then I'll just pop up a few more photos on screen. By August 21, it started getting its second leaf, and straight away I can tell that each leaf is getting larger. So I know that I put it in the right conditions, I'm giving it the right care. Now I just really got to continuously care for it and give it a bit of time for it to start growing larger. Then I've got another photo over here from October 21. I mainly just included that photo because Brett is being super cute sleeping under my plants. That other one over here is probably a better representation of how large the plant was by October 21. So at this stage it was working on its fourth leaf. So it's pretty much averaging one leaf a month at this time. Keep in mind that when a plant is still smaller, usually leaves take less time to unfurl, and because they're obviously smaller, and then as the plant matures, these leaves will become more infrequent because each leaf is going to be a massive undertaking the plant has to go through, right? So eventually it kind of slows down. By February 2022, you can really see a significant increase in leaf size, and I suppose that's because it's just after summer, right? So keep in mind I'm in the southern hemisphere, so yesterday was the first day of spring. Happy days. So we are really, the good growing season is really just starting again, so I'm excited. But yeah, definitely over summer you can see that the leaf size has increased, and it's a continuous increase in leaf size. And I mean, you can see that on that plant right now. It still has all of its leaves. So this was the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10, and now it's working on its 11th one. So you can see that really each leaf is continuously increasing. So I know that I'm doing the right thing, I just need to give it time. Yeah, so then another leaf in April, another leaf in May, and then another leaf in August. So it is not quite averaging like a leaf a month anymore. It's kind of really just maybe a leaf every 2 months or so. So hang on, there was 11 leaves now, and it's been what, 14, 15 months or so on. So I think that that's pretty good, but it's not one of the fastest growers, right? For example, my Monstera dubia, it was at the beginning really pushing out a new leaf weekly. And yeah, I mean, this new leaf, I hope you can see that okay on camera. I think it's just looking super stunning. So this sodiroi on the back, it has like this really cute, like pale pink color at the beginning. But as these leaves fully unfurl and start, hardening off, the color at the back is really kind of light, but it has these really beautiful red veins at the back, and then the red petiole insertions over here. The petioles in themselves are kind of D-shaped, so they're flat at the top and rounded at the bottom, and they have a little bit of texture to them as well. Now, I really love these sodiroi leaves. I just think they are like the most perfect heart shape, especially from the back. I just think these little hearts with the red veining, it's very hard to beat. But from the front, I also really like it because it has these nice little silver splotches over here. Now, I believe that as the plant matures, these silver splotches or silver splashes, or however you want to call it, will eventually fade and disappear, and it will eventually just kind of become all green. So I'm not actually looking forward to that, but you know, proof is in the pudding. We'll see what it looks like, and if I don't like it, then I'll just chop it to make it go back to being a little bit more juvenile. All right, that's pretty much all about the journey and what the plant really looks like. So let me tell you what I've learned about it. Well, first things first, it is definitely a climber. Now, I know that there's different types of sodirois out there as well. I think there's a sodiroi I don't know, sodiroi F, which apparently is more of a crawler. But I couldn't really find a good source online to really clarify exactly what's going on. But I'm pretty certain this is a sodiroi. Sodiroi is normally a climber, but it climbs quite slowly. So you can see that, you know, this has been on this moss pole since, ooh, hey Brettles. In case the camera is shaking, it's Brett jumping on the bed. So it's, I mean, it's not even halfway up its pole, and it's been over, what, 15 months being on this pole. So that is really slow. So it grows with very short internodal spacing, and overall it's not a very fast grower, but it matures quite fast, if that makes sense, right? So if I compare that to, for example, my verrucosum, you know, within a year, it usually climbs up to 3 poles at times, right? Because it has very large internodal spacing. So it, for a pole of like a 90 centimeter pole, might only be enough to really, you know, have 5 or 6 verrucosum leaves on it. Whereas this one is now pushing out its 11th leaf, and it's not even halfway up the pole, right? So it's a great plant if you don't want to chop your plants or chop and extend your plants, you don't want it to cause too much maintenance in repotting, then it's a great plant because it's not going to outgrow its support anytime soon. It also has these really beautiful red roots. I don't know if you can see that. I'll insert a little close up. I love everything red, so I think that kind of gives it a little bit of extra. It has these really cute red petioles as well. So at the beginning of the insertion to the stem is red, as well as the insertion to the leaf is red. And yeah, as I said, I love everything red. Sodiroi is also used to make a really popular hybrid, Philodendron majestic. Philodendron majestic is a hybrid of sodiroi and verrucosum. And from experience, I can tell that it comes a lot after the sodiroi parentage, or at least the hybrid that I have. It also climbs pretty slowly. So that one also, I've got one, I just recently chopped it. I think it just took over 1 year for the majestic to grow its full pole. So it grows a little bit faster than the sodiroi. It also matures really, really fast, but it doesn't have the large internodal spacing like a verrucosum. It rather comes after the sodiroi parentage with shorter internodal spacing. Now this plant actually lives right behind me over here, where this crystallinum is right now. I just filled the gap for the video, but that's where it lives. So it is in my bedroom. My bedroom is much smaller than my living area that I normally film in. I don't control the environment as such, but because the room is much smaller, I'm having an easier time somewhat controlling it. So I've got a northeast facing window over here. So all of my plants will get amazing morning sun, and you know, we get the sunrise. And then as the sun moves up in the sky, kind of the light becomes more bright indirect up until, you know, maybe 2-3 p.m. or so, and then kind of the sun is gone, and then it's not too bright in here anymore. But that seems to be sufficient light for most of my plants in here. Now, of course, the window is on my left, so on your right-hand side, meaning that these plants over here get all of the good natural light. But these plants over here, so where the sodiroi actually lives, they don't get all too much natural light. Maybe a bit of morning sun when the sun is still really low, but the bright indirect light in the afternoon isn't really going deep enough into the room to do much to it. So I've got 2 grow lights over here. They're my Mother Official, I think that's what the brand is called, and I linked them down below. I've been using them for over a year, and I mean, I think the results speak for themselves. I'm not very scientific when it comes to grow lights. I don't measure light levels and so on. I really just let results speak for themselves. So I apologize, I'm not really a great help when it comes to that, but I also got to know my limitations, right? I do believe that the results speak for themselves though, so I believe, yes, I can recommend it. Is it the best option? Is it the most affordable option? Probably not, but as I said, I haven't really researched into it anymore. While the light has been set up to kind of just supplement the natural light, I believe because this is one of the ones that's actually the farthest away from the window, that it would probably mainly rely on the artificial light. And almost like the natural light is supplementing the artificial light in that regard. So anyway, whatever I'm doing, it's clearly working. So it is around about a meter away from this grow light actually, and it doesn't seem to mind. It's in my regular aeroid mix. I've got a video on that, and it's on my really regular moss pole. So 6 centimeter diameter, 90 centimeters tall. So really just the same treatment as all my other plants. All right, so I water it pretty much just once a week, and I've never really had any issues with this one drying out because the plant isn't really covering the whole moss pole in the first place. So usually the moss pole would dry out from the top first, but because it's only really halfway up the pole, I feel like this part of the pole doesn't dry out enough within even just 1 week for me to have to water in between. So watering once a week is plenty. Sometimes I even watered less than once a week. So that's also why I like to have large moss poles, even though the plant is still quite small, because I can water the full moss pole. And then obviously gravity is going to make the water gradually, you know, drain down. So this part is kind of constantly kept moist through the moisture on the top. That makes sense. So yeah, if I would keep the moss pole much shorter, then obviously the top of the moss pole would be here. So it means that this part is the one that would dry out first, but that's where the plant has attached itself to, and that's the part that I don't want to dry out. Alrighty, and look, I have more information on moss poles, aeroid mix, watering moss poles and so on in a moss pole playlist, which I'll link at the end screen. Obviously, I use my regular GT foliage focus fertilizer that I use when I water it weekly as well. So I use a weak dilution, but I fertilize it weekly. Maybe once or twice a year, I don't use fertilizer and I just flush out the medium and everything. But most of the times I actually forget to do that. But it's probably a good idea to just, you know, give your plants a bit of a break every now and then. But I've been pretty much consistently fertilizing for over a year, and the plant has not really suffered from it. So, you know, don't fix what's not broken. The other environmental conditions over here. So I spoke about the light, but because this room is much smaller, I'm having an easier time controlling or at least regulating temperature and humidity levels as well. So because it gets the morning sun, the room heats up pretty quickly and quite well. Even in winter when it's quite cold outside, the sun is really heating up this room. So it's always above 20 degrees, but if it's a really cold, rainy day, then I do have a heater in this room as well to, you know, so I can heat the room. And I usually try and keep it above 20. In summer, it can go over 30 for sure, especially in the morning. So sometimes in the morning, the sun is too intense and I need to close the blinds. Just kind of like annoying because the plants would probably appreciate the light, but that it's getting too hot. With humidity, I don't control the humidity in this room. I don't supplement the humidity in this room through a humidifier, but because I have quite a few moss poles in here, the water evaporating from these moss poles is kind of giving the room a natural humidity boost. But of course, in a small room with high humidity, you got to be careful. In an indoor setting, you really don't want mold to form, neither on your walls, ceiling, but also not on your plants and your moss poles. So really important that you keep airflow up. So I pretty much always have my windows open. I love fresh air, so do my plants, which then gets rid of that humidity boost that the poles gave me. But we've been really lucky with really humid weather in Sydney anyway. So I'm not worried about humidity at all. And besides having the window open, I also do love running a fan. I don't have it on all the time. Just every now and then I just turn on the fan and I just let it circulate to make sure that there's always airflow in this room, especially after you spray the plant or you water the plant, and especially if there's water droplets on your leaves. You don't want the water droplets to sit on your leaves because it could cause fungal issues. So you always want to keep airflow high. I think airflow is one of these really underrated things. In nature, wind is constant, right? All right, it's a short video. I hope you still enjoyed it, but that's really all I've got to say about this beautiful Philodendron sodiroi. If you want to learn more about my moss poles, my aeroid mix, and so on, I'll link the playlist over here. And if you want to learn more about the setup of this room overall, I'll link my houseplant tour down here. And yeah, that's it. Right, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Take care and happy growing. Bye.